We are going to be welcoming Jan Kamal Khan, who's Federal Minister for Commerce, to the stage in the next few minutes. But first of all, I'd like to turn our attention to, well, we're basically going to be looking at how you can leverage market research to improve your growth. And to that end, we have an eminent expert who's going to be joining us on stage for an international keynote presentation. I'm hoping that Pinar is ready and prepped to come to the stage. I think she is. Pinar Kivilcim, who is Global Client Officer for Emerging Markets for Ipsos Healthcare in both Turkey and the United Arab Emirates. She has got a phalanx of research to share with you, and I'm delighted to say that she joins me now on the stage. Welcome, Pinar. Thank you very much indeed.
Hello, everyone. So I think I'm audible, right? It's a great honor being here today. Thank you so much for having me. And what I have been seeing, thank you so much. So this is Pinar. I'm from Ipsos, one of the market research companies that has been operating globally in 100 countries. And definitely Pakistan is one of these countries, and it's super important to our business in total, and I'm seeing that there is a huge potential of this country. This is my first time in Pakistan and in Islamabad, and I have to admit that I am so impressed. So it's been an honor today to kind of trying to give a little bit of inspiration if possible, because I see so many commonalities from all the speeches in the morning and also the CEO discussion, the panel discussion. I'm so feeling lucky that I'm just right after that, so that it's going to be a little bit of inspiration to give you when you are back in your offices, to kind of give a little bit of thought in terms of how you can be able to utilize insights, because I would like to also challenge a little bit Dr. Semi in terms of data-driven decision making. Because yes, data by itself is the superpower. However, giving a meaning to the data is also something super important, that it's going to be insights and data-driven decision-making processes that we have been seeing the whole world is now going through. So what I have done, I have chosen a specific team in terms of seeing that there is a very big ambition of the industry in Pakistan to do even further and bigger exports, which means that it is very important to have all the tips and tricks for better strategies to access, to enter into new territories, new markets. And research, market research, can help the industries, and definitely healthcare is one of those industries, to kind of make better and well-informed decisions across various angles. And those angles can be sometimes how to have better communication with healthcare professionals. It might be sometimes how to better understand the unmet needs of the patients and how to respond better to them. But sometimes it might also be very helpful for the industry to make better strategies in terms of how to enter into new markets. So that's why I choose the theme today for market access. Before going into that, I would like to give a little bit of, let's say, glimpse on the trends that we have seen in the healthcare and pharma industry globally. Hello, I don't think that the clicker is working. Yes, okay. Cool. So we have seen some of these ecosystems in the healthcare that are really evolving rapidly, and that I would, excuse me, so this is not moving, okay. I think it's because of the animations would not be working so properly, so just please allow me to first open them and then I will go. Based on the healthcare ecosystems that are really evolving, we see some trends that are happening in the world which are quite linked to what we have started to discuss today in this conference and summit. So there are, first of all, very large variations in the public health expenditures. So as a country, if you would like to export into different territories and markets, we know that every different market has their own expenditure plans, publicly or privately. So that's why we have seen these large variations, that it needs to be quite important to know how to act better to each of those different variations. And there is a shift that we have seen towards the value-based healthcare. If you remember, for the last 10 to 20 years, it's mainly the volume-based healthcare that we have been spoken. However, with all the advancements in the technologies, in the healthcare space, we are now seeing a huge shift to the value-based healthcare. That's why in the previous discussion of the CEO panel, I have heard from the CEOs that there is a bit of differentiation needed, right? And for that differentiation, it's mainly coming to this, how to showcase the value of your products, the value of your drugs to your stakeholders, to your new markets. And we have seen this evaluation of the HTAs, the health technology assessments, is now becoming almost like a must-to-have thing. So that's why this is something impacting the whole ecosystem that we are seeing. There are increased budget and pricing pressures, which I'm sure we have all been witnessing in all the countries. It's not only in Pakistan, it's the same for the whole world. That's why it's very important to give better responses to those pressures. There are innovative, high-cost health technologies, right? Technology is never cheap. It's always having a high cost. So that's why how to become innovative by keeping all these high costs into consideration is something that is really impacting and influencing the whole ecosystem. There is an increased use for the real-world evidence in the whole industry. So that's why if you would like to showcase your product and that it is a good value for the money that you are looking for, you have to also showcase what are the real cases that is really giving your product this value. And the patient engagement is something so important that we are seeing. The patient-centric research is now improving in the whole world and in the whole ecosystem. The future development and all these access trends in the emerging markets are expected to be influenced by some factors. And coming to these factors, we can say that there are three main that I would like to focus on. The need for innovative pricing strategies, because we know that there are so many countries, nearby countries, our neighbors, having very different and lower price strategies. So that's why we have to have this need for being innovative. The collaboration with the stakeholders. I think this is what Dr. Mahmoud Khan referred to in his speech in the morning, that the collaboration, not only within the industry itself, but also between the public-private partnerships, that's been really so important. And definitely by coming... Sure. Okay. Is it better? Thank you. And with all these non-communicable diseases that are really kind of in the rise, that we know that the preventive medicine is now the main theme across the whole industry. In all the global summits, in all the global conferences, now we have started to hear more and more about the vaccines, more and more about the preventive medicines. So that's why it's very important for us to have a much better collaboration between the whole ecosystem stakeholders. This is exactly where we have seen this collaboration happen, I think maybe the best in class during the COVID time, because it's the only maybe time that it really influenced the whole world. So that's why this collaboration needs to happen on the country and on the local levels as well, between the full ecosystem stakeholders. And the policy shaping HTAs is also another factor that is really impacting
all the developing markets, because we know that to drive these innovative therapies in the emerging markets, the capacity to speed up the regulatory approval processes by the approvers is so important. That's why, like, I think in Dr. Sami's discussion and his speech, he refers how to implement and use AI and the digital health solutions to have effective data management, which those data managements can help and support the industry to have better discussions with the regulatory authorities like DRAP, and then making some faster registries and faster approvals, which would definitely be very important in today's speeding up world that we have to be quite speed as well. So that's why we can leverage AI in these terms. So the deeper understanding of the market access overall is desired to address and accelerate the solutions to these evolving trends. And how to moving into this space, I just would like to make a small glance at market access, because there is a bit of definition that we are using for market access, which is like, we know that market access is something where we need to have the patient to access to the treatments at an acceptable, affordable price, because it has to be acceptable. We have been discussing that it's all about accessing to better healthcare and to better medicines from the patient's perspective. But at the same time, it needs to be a maintained access, which means that there is the second part of this story, which is the industry itself. For the industry, it must be achieved in such a way. I think this is why these kind of conferences and summits are so important, by putting both the industry and the decision makers and the payers in the same room, because for the industry, it must be achieved in a way that ensures the appropriate return on investment is there for the manufacturers to maintain this access to the patients. This is how overall level we define market access. And then there are so many parts to kind of where research or where market access strategies can support the industry to make better informed decisions. So focusing on market access typically comes after the regulatory approval and just before the launch. So thinking about the whole product life cycle, right? Starting from the development of the drugs to going into the regulatory phase in terms of getting the registries and the approvals. Then during the launch time, that there is this physical launches, marketing activities, the experiences, the supply chains, and then after the last post-launch period, there will be all these maintaining the success of the products and then making it a surveillance throughout this management. But there is this specific part which is just before the launch, where we generally see the market access that typically comes in. Because there is the assessment of the value and setting the price and reimbursement if applicable. So we know that Pakistan is mainly an out-of-pocket market. However, for the exportation, when you have been thinking the nearest countries in Southeast Asia, there have been so many different reimbursement schemes in place. And for you to kind of make better decisions and better entries into those markets, knowing how the best possible reimbursement schemes might look like for your product, by learning from what has been done so far, what you have seen in those markets happen, like having some analogs in that specific areas, in that specific territories would be very helpful. There is also the goal for getting the eligible patient access at the price that is affordable. So that's why you need to kind of better understand who is my target patient profile, my target patient. And then for the public and private payers, we know that cost of access has to be affordable and also the financially sustainable, as we have just mentioned a minute ago. And the industry needs to have its return on investment from all this. So in this evolving country like Pakistan and many other evolving markets, there are some clear challenges that we have seen affecting the pharma companies. So that's why it drives some demand for solutions, where we have just been discussed in the CEO panel. So we see the challenges as that there is the rapid changes in the systems, in healthcare systems across the whole world, with all these changes in the health ecosystem. Access to innovative health technologies are under so much pressure in these evolving countries. The increasing diversity of decision-making stakeholders, that there is no one-fits-all solution. That's why it's a very diverse part that you have to deal with all different types of decision makers and stakeholders. And then the pressure for the price transparency, the comparative effectiveness of your product versus the similar products coming from other competitors. The stubborn inflation that is happening in so many emerging countries, but also so many developed countries in the recent years. And the increasing competition from both local and also the global players is putting all these challenges onto the market, which makes the pharma need to have some ability to shape rather than react, right? So this is why this conference is so important. You need to be proactively shaping the ecosystem and shaping the whole industry rather than waiting and reacting to the market and its needs. The evidence-based pricing is something so important that we have seen this in so many other countries that we have been trying to support and help our clients to have better informed decisions and make better strategies. The more inclusive evidence generation and communication is definitely needed across the stakeholders. And the robust insights, which is why we have been saying that from insights to impact, this is how pharma need to do this. So that means that there needs to be some actions that can help the pharma industry to succeed in among all these challenges and to be proactive rather than being a reactive. The gaining the relevant insights into current and the future opportunities and challenges. The collecting the robust independent evidence across the range of the stakeholders. And then then it's also devising the trustable, implementable strategies to raise the full potential. So for this, I think what I would like to give a bit of just one quick slide in terms of how market access can provide a vast array of solutions to some key questions that might be responding to those challenges. So first of all, it's mainly about gaining insights and understanding the landscape.
Perfect.
Yes,
No
okay.
worries.
Thank you.
What's great if you've got a...
So in terms of the landscape, what are the unmet needs? What is the competitive landscape look like? How is the expected likelihood of the reimbursement scheme? Is it a relevant reimbursement category for my product? And coming to the, how will payers view the technology that I'm providing? So are they ready to pay for this technology? And how this vary by market or by payer archetypes, because there are various payer archetypes that we have seen. So I will be speaking about it just in terms of the 5 different archetypes in a minute. And what is the optimal go-to-market strategy for me? How can we be able to best address the best strategy, the potential barriers, and to overcome with those barriers? And what the data will be required to support my decisions? And coming to the next part, which is about how I can be able to show my value in terms of the story and messaging, because it's not only the product itself, it's not only the manufacturing itself, but it's also the messages and the value proposition that you are providing to the ones who would be going to register your product, who would be going to pay for your product. So that's why, what is the perceived value of your product versus the competitors? What messages resonates the most with your potential payers? Then how you can be able to resonate the best with those stakeholders? And also, if in terms of the launch, is there any sequence for launching my product in specifically this country first and then comes the next? Is there a sequence that has to happen? And if there is any pushback, what would be the biggest pushback on the pricing strategy from the payers that I have been trying to register my product or launch my product in a specific country and market? So these questions can be addressed through the research solutions, through the insight solutions, which might be focused around 4 pillars: the insight, evidence, value, and strategy. I'm not going through each of those because there are so many different research and insights types that can help you. So we can be able to discuss this later if you have been any interest in this later on. And when it comes to these 5 payer archetypes, we try to kind of summarize them, and then you might be able to see for your exportation or for your niche markets, which payer type having what kind of primary goal, let's say. So there might be a cost effectiveness, which is one of the archetypes, where assessing value through the improvement of clinical and economical outcomes. There might be another archetype, which is the comparative clinical effectiveness, which has been really looking for the comparative evidence of the clinical one. There might be patient as a payer, because in countries where, like Pakistan, out-of-pocket payment is one of the main payer types, that willingness to pay of the patient is something so important to take into consideration while launching a new product into the market. So that's why it's based on the different countries have varied payer requirements, that understanding the best fit to this geography in scope can be tailored through the market access solutions that can be done. So overall, to kind of wrap up, we see what the future holds and what might be the opportunities in the coming years. So we see that the future pricing assessments must factor the value attribution into consideration, the timely evidence that is like on time and that is reflecting the value, and with the HTA processes adapting to the uncertainty and the affordability. So to combine all of these is requiring that there needs to be a very careful planning by keeping all these into the consideration before going into a new territory and before launching your new products, and then increase your exportation to all those new countries and territories. So then I think finally I would like to just mention that, to summarize, we see opportunities in 2 sides. The opportunities for the industry and the opportunities for the, let's say, the authorities and the systems. For the companies, strengthening the supply chain resilience, which was also discussed in the morning. I think I'm a little bit of, okay. And because we know that the supply chain is also changing across the whole world. Accelerating the localization, but I think this is not applicable to Pakistan, where we see 90% of the total market is being provided by the local companies, which is an amazing achievement that I need to say. However, exploring the startup partnerships to maximize innovation, like adapting AI into the base of workings, would be something as an opportunity for the companies. Promoting sustainable and value-based pricing and procurement is definitely needed. Exploring alternative pricing and funding models. This is, I think, one of the most crucial parts, where like the public-private partnerships, like the public sector being more into and more initiating the things is also so important. Investments in regulatory and the market access capabilities of the whole country is also something very important. The digital transformation and leveraging AI is also quite important for the companies to utilize and maximize the potential and the opportunities for the next years of exportation for Pakistan in specific, let's say. For the health system, the opportunities are mainly the regulatory and the HTA harmonization, which is definitely needed for fostering the cross-border collaborations and learning from what others have done in neighboring countries or in some other countries where we see very successful exportation happening. So I think as a Turkish person, I'm so proud that we have one of our local companies, Abdi Ibrahim, which is so strong, not only in the country in Turkey, but also in terms of exporting to so many other countries with very successful brands and products. So branding is also something, if you really would like to achieve your cross-border, let's say, launches and accesses even further. The continued investment in the infrastructure and the labor and workforce is so important that I remember in the morning, again, like Dr. Mahmoud's discussion, that we need to keep our young talents, be in the industry, grow in the industry, and we need this workforce for the full system to work in a better way. And the digital transformation and, of course, leveraging AI to transform the full healthcare ecosystem, not only the pharma companies spending efforts and time and investment on this, but also the full healthcare system, the authorities, the ministries also being and investing in this area to have better health outcomes and the kind of make it in a better way to have the full ecosystem, having better opportunities, and make this ambition of 7 to 800 million USD exportation to go up to 3, 4, even 5 billion. Thank you so much.
So informative. We love the data. My goodness me, the pharma sector are going to love data, let's be honest. I'm delighted to say that Pinar has very kindly agreed, I hope you knew this, to take questions from the audience. Sure. We have roving microphones, so if anyone would like to raise their hand with a question for Pinar, then we would be delighted to take it. If not, believe me, I can crack on with an awful lot of questions, but any thoughts on questions? I'm sort of roaming around. Do you know what I like to do in these situations is I always go a bit international. And of course, you've got that unique perspective across both Turkey and the UAE. And I just wonder which countries are a good model for what you've been describing. You know, I imagine there's elements of lots and lots rather than one country totally nailing it. But what would you suggest?
So I might be a little bit like biased in this, but I think like also Dr. Sami was kind of referring to this in his speech, is that what we have seen in Turkey's healthcare ecosystem is quite integrated, that we have seen that as a patient or as a consumer, I can be able to like round around the whole country, go to any hospitals, have my treatment, and then another doctor, if I go and say that, you know what, this is what has happened in the past and this is how my story is evolved, that doctor can be able to access, if I give my consent, of all the history, which gives them the better perception and understanding of, as a patient, what's my history and story, so how they can help me with better access and with better things. And also coming to the country's pharma industry, I must say that we have some very strong local companies who have been like recognized very well in like, let's say at least 50 to 60 countries, because it's not only that they have manufactured, but they have also become a branding companies that they have been exporting their brands across the borders. So I think Turkey would be a good, let's say, analog to search for.
Now, this might not be entirely your field, but I suppose that there are also questions around privacy when a patient is sharing their data across many hospitals and many doctors. I know that that's something that I had to get used to the idea of. In the UAE, I had to sign a document saying I was happy for it to be shared. In the United Kingdom, I had to share a document saying I was happy for that to be shared. Do you think the public minds that data being shared?
So there has been so many concerns and skepticism around the privacy, right? Around the patient privacy. However, at the same time, what we have been seeing with all these advancements in the technology, AI coming into the place, better healthcare, like kind of the robotic surgeries, and everything is happening is so fast. Yes, there are some concerns from both the healthcare professional sides and the patients. However, at the same time, we are seeing that the data being accumulated and being used for making better decisions is kind of, I think, giving the people the chance to kind of start looking from another angle that this is contributing to the better healthcare. So that's why this skepticism is there. However, at the same time, I think the governments and the authorities, the regulations also must respond to those skepticism and to those concerns that everything is being kept in full privacy. So that's why it's based on consent, but at the same time, it's also been based on the verifications coming from the government, coming from the authorities, that everything is being done in full privacy and there will be no issues with that, which will definitely evolve in time, which we have seen in so many preventive medicines like vaccines in today's world. In the past, it's been more skepticism that we have seen, but it's evolving because we know that sometimes we need those preventions. So this is exactly how this has been evolving, which we will be seeing in the society also. There is kind of a bit of a skepticism, but there is also hope for the improvement.